So I'm nearing the end of my 20s, and looking back on my 20s, I've really been focused on building my career, and that's meant navigating a lot of workplace politics. I'm someone who enjoys working with people who I know and like and enjoy spending time with, because let's face it, most of us are going to be working at least 40-hour weeks, and these are the people who you're probably going to be spending most of your days with. I want to craft a life experience overall that I enjoy, and so I want to be enjoying my work, and I want to be enjoying the company of my colleagues, which I have. But especially if this is your first time entering the workforce in an office setting, I want you to be aware of the slippery nature of workplace relationships. Maybe this is your first time having office mates or in a group setting. You're feeling the camaraderie with your peers. People are describing the team as a family. You go to happy hours after work. Maybe they're foosball tables. It all seems hunky-dory. But I'll let you in on a little secret. Your coworkers are not your friends. And I say this as someone who's pretty good friends with a lot of my former coworkers. Emphasis on former, not current. When I'm talking about coworkers here, I'm talking about the kind of relationship where you're working with someone at the same company and you're both employees serving the same employer. So I actually don't have any coworkers right now, and I feel like once you get into the world of being an independent consultant or freelance creative, I feel like those relationship dynamics are actually very different. But I was working in an office with coworkers for the first several years of my career, and I was always aware of that distinction between a coworker and a true friend. You might be friendly with your coworkers. You might describe a coworker as a friend in passing because friend is a convenient term for a person who you know and also like. But in my mind, the business side of the relationship has to come first. I mean, at least in this economy. And if you blur the line between workmates and personal friends, you could end up regretting it. So here's my approach to thinking about friendship in the workplace that will get you the benefits of genuine connection without the perils of crossing boundaries and oversharing. Hey, it's your girl Ahsante, helping you move consciously and creatively through life, so let's go. So of course this is just going to be my opinion and advice based on my own experience. I don't know your experience, I don't know your specific situation, so feel free to take what applies to you and leave the rest. So as much as you may like your colleagues, and I certainly have, you have to keep in mind that this is a work relationship. It's not actually a family. Family bonds are etched in stone. You're always going to be related to your relatives. And the value of family is having a consistent support system. When it comes to your coworkers, the community is conditional. It's conditional upon your employment, which is an exchange of time and skill for money. Once that condition isn't being met, or that exchange is no longer working, you lose that community. So I've always found it to be really important to cultivate strong relationships outside of work. I think it's a mistake for us to have structured employment to be so central in our lives anyway. That's a topic for a whole other video. But when an employer says that the group is a family, that can actually be a red flag because in reality, there is no undying loyalty between employee and employer. When companies talk about being a family, it can be language that's used to try to obligate people to accept something that they're not obligated to accept, like lower wages or substandard working conditions. So this is a work relationship above all else, and the main question in a working relationship is, are you someone who I can trust to get the job done? Business relationships, like other relationships, are built on trust, and they need to know that you can get the work done. The resume, the interviews, the references are all things trying to convince the employer to trust you with the job. You don't want to do anything at work that jeopardizes that trust. So when it comes to workplace conduct, in the back of my mind, I was always asking, is this something that's going to show my employer that they can trust me to get the job done? This plays into acting ethically. You know, they need to trust that you're not going to breach any agreements or get the company in trouble. It plays into being honest and fair and hardworking, and it plays into being well regarded by others. This complicates the idea of bringing your whole self to work, which I understand and agree with the sentiment of that phrase. You do want to be able to be a full person and be expressive and not feel like you have to totally mute yourself. The sentiment is a reaction against hyperproductivity, just clocking in, clocking out, delivering, at all costs, humans really being treated like robots. It's an acknowledgement that, humans have emotions and needs and flaws, and we should be able to be human at work. But if you really think about it, In terms of your behavior, you really don't bring your full self anywhere. You're always choosing which behavior to exhibit at what times. Like, you're probably not going to go blabbing about your romantic life in the middle of a church service. You might not talk about your college debauchery while you're babysitting young children. There are just some categories of people and places that you have to treat carefully, and work is one of those places. You have to curate your image and protect your reputation because people will judge you. And unlike confiding something to a BFF, confiding to a coworker could have real career consequences. And just because you might do or say something off-site doesn't mean that someone isn't going to bring it up in the office the next day. Perception is important. We can argue about whether it should be or not, but it is, and it can affect how you're treated, what opportunities you get, what information is shared with you. It has real career consequences, and I'm very protective of my career, so I want to make sure I'm being protective of my reputation as well. There are times where you don't want to be as open about your personal information in order to maintain a professional image. So here are a few things that I don't discuss at work. Anything about my romantic history or my dating life, especially not any between the sheets specifics. Chatting with a good girlfriend, sure thing. Chatting with coworkers, not so much. I don't discuss details of my financial situation, especially because your job is paying you. They could use that to discriminate, and it's none of their business. You don't need people thinking, oh, well, she lives with her boyfriend and he's the financial heavyweight, so we don't really need to give her a raise. Or, oh, he has a bunch of money saved up, so he's fine staying where he is. Just run me the check and otherwise stay out my pocket. Run me the check. Another no is gripes about my coworkers. It's a slippery slope with this one, Office gossip is fun to listen to, but once you start partaking, again, that jeopardizes some trust. If you're gossiping to me about someone else in the workplace, then what's to say you won't be talking about me the next time? It's tempting to want to vent to someone who also knows the work situation like you do, but word gets around, and once you've told one person, you've told the entire office. It's the nature of saucy information to spread. And if you end up stirring up conflict, that could affect the team's ability to perform, and then it's a performance issue. Yikes. And lastly, I don't share anything that I don't think is my employer's business. I'm over here minding my own business. You are there to do the work and to receive compensation for that work. You don't really need to disclose anything unrelated to how you're doing with the project, and maybe any personal things that are affecting the work or affecting your attendance or presence at the office. It's easy to forget this because work is so central to most of our lives, especially when we have to physically go into work and structure a lot of our lives around that physical workplace. But you are allowed to have boundaries and to put those boundaries where you feel comfortable. So if you want to make sure that you have those work boundaries and you're not oversharing, then how do you build relationships? Well, there's one state of mind that says, just don't bother making friends at work. If something happens, fine, but you're there to do your job, so just focus on that. And once you leave the company, you probably aren't going to see these people again anyway. And while that's fine, I like having friendly relationships with my coworkers, and I actually have befriended a lot of people who I used to work with. Okay, so I'm jumping back in during editing to clarify this point. This is the difference between being friendly, which is being pleasant, caring, kind, appreciative, and being actual friends. And I'm defining a true friend as someone who you can confide in, who you have a lasting bond with, who supports you as a person, and who you can count on to have your back. That kind of friendship is not transactional. You really can't tell whether you're real friends or let's make a deal friends until you get outside of that work environment. Until then, you're all being paid to be there and be nice enough to each other to at least get the work done. For ease of language, you might say that someone who you work with, who you like, is a work friend, but in my mind, if someone is a work friend, you cannot let the modifier off that noun, right? Like, they are a work friend, not a friend, a work friend. The friendship is conditional, there's a boundary, and it's worth keeping that boundary top of mind. So with that boundary in mind, I go in with a friendly attitude towards everyone. I do like developing personal relationships off of work relationships. In fact, sometimes part of the reason why I'm looking forward to quitting a job is because now I'll just get to be friends with people. And either way, I'm someone who keeps in touch with most of my former direct coworkers, which brings me to my next point on relationships. And I realized, especially, now having jumped off and doing consulting, that I'm building building my career based on relationships. And I'm a values-driven person, so I want to work with people who not just need what I offer, but who also believe what I believe. That's something that you can find out about people through working with them if you're really engaged. And I try to be genuinely interested in the people who I'm working with. While still keeping it within the domain of work, I ask about their opinions. I ask about their methodology. Why are you doing this approach? How are you approaching the work? What brought you to this work in the first place? What draws you to the role that you're in? A lot of folks have regular one-on-one meetings with their manager, and something that I got from the book Radical Candor by Kim Scott, excellent book. I'll talk a bit more about that later. But one thing that she suggests is treating your one-on-ones like coffee dates. You have this opportunity to pick someone's brain about their work and their career. So using that as an opportunity to ask interesting questions and really get to know them can still have you forming relationships that are completely work appropriate. And I've just learned so many interesting things from simply asking people about their professional backgrounds. By working with someone, you have the opportunity to ask them questions and, pick their brain in a way that you might not have if you're just a random person hitting them up from the outside. And so I've wound up having these rich work relationships that can bridge into personal relationships once either of us leaves the company. I've actually kept in touch with all of my former bosses, at least for the year after we'd parted ways professionally, and a lot of folks I still keep up with to this day. And since I'm building my career on relationships, if I've found a genuine connection with someone, I don't want to just let that go. So even if I'm not super regularly in touch, I try to send people notes to just say hi every now and then. I genuinely care, I take an interest in other people, and I'm respectful at every step of the way. Having a friendly work culture obviously helps with this, and the framework from Radical Candor for doing that is to be a boss, really, and to be a workmate that cares personally and challenges directly. It is mostly a book about management, but I feel like even if you are working with a manager, you're still able to set the tone of that relationship. So honestly, I feel like anyone who is an employee or a middle manager or a top manager would benefit from reading this book. Caring personally doesn't mean prying into personal details. It does mean caring about someone as a person, recognizing that full humanity outside of just caring what kind of work they can deliver for you. And challenging directly means that if there is an issue, that you address it so that it doesn't balloon into something even more unwieldy later on. Going beyond the demand for work tasks does mean including some of those pleasantries. Hey, how are you doing? How was your weekend? It's the one-word check-ins. It's the have a great holiday. Yes, we're all here to do the work, but we're also all human. I actually do care how you're doing, and I want you to be having an overall pleasant experience as we're working together. Having regular one-on-ones or group check-ins with people who you work with regularly hold space to just maintain that relationship, have open communication, and clear up any small details that might not be addressed more formally. I also like developing relationships with coworkers through bonding activities, which I'm not talking about like going to the woods and doing trust falls. Like, that's not what I'm talking about. But it does mean taking some time and space outside of just focusing on work tasks. We bond with people over good conversations and shared experiences, and there are a lot of low-lived, low-maintenance ways to incorporate those things. I have been one to suggest a team lunch or a happy hour. If you're ambitious, you could get together a game night or a book club. I've gone on a museum outing with coworkers that's fun. So it doesn't need to be heavy, deep, and real. We're not getting super personal, but it's just time and space to share and have some human connection and get away from just checking off to-do list items at your desk. And these bonding activities are never mandatory, so if it's not your thing, you can always opt out. And along those lines, if someone's not particularly friendly or clearly doesn't want to make, meaningful work relationships, that's totally fine and that's on them. I come in with the mindset of being friendly to everyone, but, I'm not going to force a friendly relationship where there really is none. But hopefully not everyone is unfriendly, because that would mean either A, there's something in the water that's toxic and making everyone behave in this unfriendly way, or B, that this is the kind of person that they've selected for this job in this workplace, which means that the workplace probably isn't the best fit for me. It's a thanks but no thanks. And once I eventually leave a workplace, then I see which relationships are strong enough and feel genuine enough to carry into personal relationships. And if I really like someone, I try to express that I'm interested in staying in touch, and I try to have a few seal the deal connections after I leave. I know the relationship was conditional, I actually like you, and so I'm interested in continuing our relationship regardless of where either of us works. So once I have a post-quitting drinks or dinner with a former colleague, I'll probably be a bit more candid about how I felt about things now that I no longer have to have my work face on. I would also argue that former coworkers can make some of the best friends because you know how they operate, and if you are working at a values-driven company like I was, then they probably share a lot of your values and want to make a positive impact in the world in similar ways that you do. There's a great quote from the book Untamed by Glennon Doyle that speaks to this. There's no bond like the bond that is forged among people who are united in the same world-healing work. We all want purpose and connection. Tell me what breaks your heart and I'll point you towards both. I felt it. You've been working with your colleagues towards some bigger cause, and that can be a powerful connection. And you can tell in the workplace whether someone is reliable, trustworthy, a good communicator, stays on top of their schedule, all good qualities in a friend. And they know how you operate as well, so you can already be starting off with this nice bed of trust and shared interests and common goals, and so it's a great way to jump off a personal relationship. There's also a benefit of having a work friend turned personal friend turned work friend again if you wind up working with them at another company or they hire you for something in the future. I've had this happen with a couple of folks, and I do tend to put the work boundaries back on the friendship a bit because people are imperfect, judgmental creatures. So if they've now hired you for something, they are thinking about you in that context again. And you similarly don't want to do or say anything that would jeopardize the trust in you being able to get the job done. But since you also have a personal background now, there's even more trust in that relationship already. So when the funk hits the fan, you know they have your back and they know that you have theirs. You're on the same team, you're allies, and you'll each give each other the benefit of the doubt. And there's even more shared history to draw on. You really understand each other, you know how you communicate, you can empathize if there are any difficulties coming in from the personal life and affecting the work. So having that personal relationship background can facilitate a work relationship. Maintaining work boundaries while developing real, genuine connections with the people you're working with is a delicate dance, but I found it to be very worth the effort. If you liked this video, you might also like my video on how I mindfully quit my jobs in a way that I would be able to maintain those friendships. And big shout out to the brilliant beings who are helping me to make these videos. As always, remember to live spiritedly and think creatively, and I will see you next time.